everyone, my name is Vina, aka Miss WOC Reader, and welcome back to my channel. So it is officially March, which means winter's almost over, but I still wanted to serve you guys a little wintry look as we're on our way out. And I wanted to talk about the month of February because February had some new experiences, some fun experiences, some new books, some cute ones, some meh ones. So let's get into everything. To start off the month, I got to go to the African American Children's Book Fair in Philadelphia. I did like a little short with it. If you didn't see my short, go ahead and watch it. It's quick, but there's a lot in it. And that was a fun day. So I took the bus and down there, and I met up with Chloe from Zillin Verse, and we were going around Chinatown where we had lunch. We got to go to the book fair, which was a lot of fun. It was just cool to be in that space with so many recognizable authors from the world of kidlit, especially since I am currently working on this YA fantasy. It was just great to talk to other creatives, and I got to see some of my faves. So I got to meet Valerie Bowling. I've read quite a few of her picture books last year. I read and reviewed. I was packing for the day, but I didn't want to take too many books because I'm I don't know if I'm gonna buy books, and I'm books get heavy. So I just picked one of her books that I could take down, and then I picked one from Elizabeth Acevedo because I knew she was going to be there, and I already had met her previously for her family lore launch and had that copy signed, but I decided to take the chance and bring my copy of Clap When You Land for her to sign as well, and I'm glad I did. When I saw her, she didn't have a line or anything, so I was able to talk to her for a bit, and she is so nice. She is just as chill and as cool as you expect from reading her books. I got to talk to Ibiza Boy. That was pretty cool. I got to see Sharon G. Flake. Vashti Harrison had quite the line. I think she was the most popular person there just because she's really big in picture books right now, so a lot of people recognize her, especially for Hair Love. So she had a line of people excited to get their books signed by her. They were selling books by various authors, not just the ones who were sitting there, but just so many different ones. So I ended up not buying any books because the line was just so long, and it was crazy because there were hundreds of people there. I even saw somebody I went to college with there. I was taking pictures with an author who actually had recognized me from Bookstagram, and this girl pulls me aside and she's like, "I know you from school," and so that was crazy because we had not seen each other in so long. But overall, that was a fun time and just a great experience, and I've been enjoying going to book related events the past few months. I thought I wasn't going to like it, but it's just so easy to strike up a conversation with strangers there because you already have that common thing you enjoy, and it's just been cool to meet other people who are just as passionate as I am about sharing Black stories. So let's get into everything I read during the month of February. So I was trying to get at least one or two books that I had sitting on my TBR for a while off my TBR. The goal is to at least read one backlist book a month, and I definitely accomplished that. The first one that I read was Stacey Abrams' Rogue Justice. This was gifted to me by Penguin Random House, and I had been waiting to read this one, and I'm glad I picked it up. So it's hard for me to describe this one just because so much is going on, and you really do need to read book one to understand what's going on in book two, because it's a continuation. So in book two, we are still following Avery, and now she's dealing with the fallout of the events from book one, and the president is going through his impeachment trial, but the impeachment trial is just only one factor. She's trying to lay low because she's one of the most hated people in America right now, and she can't even get a job or anything. But then somebody who is also a judge's clerk approaches her, and he's like, my boss committed suicide recently. I don't think it was suicide by her choice. I think she was forced to commit suicide. Then that man ends up shot. So that just spirals and like and like starts a whole chain of events, and Avery's boyfriend Garrett is like, you need to stay out of it, it's not your problem, I don't want you to get killed. And there was just so much going on in this. It was like an action-packed movie. This is one that they are trying to make into a TV series, and I definitely watch, like, if they were to make a TV series like weekly, it'd probably be like a little easier to understand everything that was going on, because there's just so many different moving pieces of the politics in this one. But overall, it's still a really good story. So after Rogue Justice, I just needed something to, relax my mind for a little bit, because that one was a lot. So I ended up reading Drop, Cover, and Hold On by Jasmine Guillory, which was a part of these books that were a part of Amazon Prime reading. So I only recently got Prime because my sister put me on her Prime. And then I remembered there are books that you can read on Amazon Prime free every month. So I decided, this is short. Hopefully it'll be sweet. I haven't read a Jasmine Guillory in a while, so change of pace. Y'all, I don't need to read the Jasmine Guillory again, I don't think. All of her books read the same. They follow like the same format. Everybody's overly obsessed with food. And the romance in this just wasn't hitting for me. So basically it's forced proximity. We have this woman, I forget what she does, but she goes into this bakery every day, even though she thinks the baker dislikes her, but his pastries are just so good she can't resist. They end up trapped during an earthquake, and then he like reveals that he really does like her and he has feelings for her, and then next thing they're smashing. They had no chemistry. There was no, I lied. They had a smidge of chemistry that came out midway through the book, which was terrible because this was a short story. And there was a lot of food porn jokes, a lot of like the jokes and like just the way she talked about food was giving me the ick. And I'm not even sensitive to like that food porny stuff in books, but it was reminding me of those gross TikToks where the men just like basically have sex with the food, which those TikToks were brought up in the book, which made it even worse. Like, ew. I did not have a fun time with this one, and even though it's short, I cannot recommend it unless you just really love Jasmine Guillory. But her writing is just not my style. I feel like she puts more effort into the food, and while food is my love language, that's a little much for me. Then I read High Spirits, which is by Camille Gomera Tavares, and this was a series of short stories that were interconnected because they were about this family called the Boleyn family, who are originally from the Dominican Republic. However, as you go down the line, they've ended up moving to the US, so it's like back and forth between Washington Heights and the Dominican Republic. And this was just a great collection. I listened to the audiobook, which I highly recommend. It just talked about so many issues, from patriarchy to just family in general, and I really liked her writing. It was like a very rhythmic style, and it's short and quick, so it's very easy to read, and go ahead and check it out for yourself. It definitely made me want to pick up her new book that came out recently. She has like a YA that I'm interested in, so I'll be picking that one up soon, and I will give you all my thoughts on that. Then I read The Last Minute First Lady, and that is by Tania Montford. And this was one I was really excited about, but it had been on my TBR for a while, but I didn't want to buy the book because I wasn't sure how I was going to like the author. So I was excited when I saw that it was on Hoopla. Hoopla gets a few more indies because, from what a friend explained to me, is if the author publishes their book through Ingram Sparks, like, so as in it's not like a Kindle exclusive, then it'll automatically be added to Hoopla, and they do get like a percentage of money for when we read through Hoopla. So that's pretty cool, and it allows us to just try some authors we might be interested in, but maybe you don't have maybe you don't want to spend all that money on ebooks. So the last minute first lady actually started off really good. So we have this woman and she works for a news station and she's like on her last strike, so to say, because of some big controversy that caused a lot of blowback to the news station. And she is profiling this man who is running for governor. He's a big, like, well-respected lawyer who runs his own law firm. And his reasoning for being governor, in addition to helping the people, because he is really big on helping the people in Illinois, he also wants to enact revenge on this other politician who caused this accident that really harmed his family. So there was like she ends up overhearing him talking to his team, explaining that he doesn't actually have a fiance. He lied to the press about having a fiance because if you know anything about US politics, you know you gotta be married. You cannot be single and in these top positions. Like, as you move up, they want you to have that family union, and people are complaining. They're like, how is he going to tell us that he knows what's best for our family when he doesn't have a family? So he really needs like a fiance and then a wife to fulfill that role. So they agree, like, she's going to marry him and they only have to stay together for X amount of time so that they can both get what they want. He will give her exclusive stories on himself, which will better elevate her position at her news station, and he gets the perfect wife he needs. So one of the things I like about the marriage of convenience type of stories is that slowly, like, getting to really fall for each other and love each other. And I feel like the author kind of speeds through that here. So by the time they're together, like, and they're having sex, like, yeah, those scenes were spicy and they were really good, but he missed a little bit of the in-between. And then she has this whole plot going on with the woman and her family that I hated, because she has a mom who is jealous of her and believes she ruined her life because her mom got pregnant at a young age, and she has this brother who hates her because he just goes along with the mom and the mom spoiled him. And I feel like in some ways the author was saying, like, oh, that she had to, like, immediately forgive the brother because it wasn't his fault, and I didn't like that. But also, there was prime opportunity to have a good conversation about mothers who are jealous of their daughters, and we didn't really have that. And that whole family drama kind of overshadows the romance, especially towards the end. I found myself getting bored and just waiting for the story to be over because that kind of took over when I should have been getting more of the couple themselves and really feeling the love. And I feel like they needed to spend more time together, and I feel like there was enough drama because he already has, like, the issue with his family and the revenge that he's trying to enact. She is trying to further her position in the workplace, and she has, like, this rival who's like this privileged white man who's really pissing her off. So we didn't need that stuff with her mom, and it just felt like we were trying to tell too many stories at once. Then I read In Search of a Prince by Tony Shiloh, and I wanted to read a Tony Shiloh for a while because I do occasionally read Christian romance. I'm trying to find some, like, really enjoyable Christian romance. So I'm trying, like, so many different authors. Just because you get a unique perspective on how people live by the faith. And so I wanted to read a Tony Shiloh. This cover looked really pretty, and so I picked it up. And this is kind of like an African princess diaries. This woman living in New York as a teacher finds out that her grandfather is dying and he is the ruler of this West African island. So she has to go over there to learn how to be a princess to one day take over the throne. At the same time, in order to take over the throne, she needs a husband. And the choices they have for her as husband are horrible. But she likes this guy who works as a guard in the palace, and they're kind of vibing, and they agree, you know, to come together so that she can get the throne, and they can learn to love each other. So one thing I did appreciate, she was pretty strong in her faith, and she prayed whenever she needed help, which I feel that, like, there are a lot of times when I'm struggling and I just pray for guidance, but I felt like it was kind of dragged out though, because every single time she needed guidance she prayed, and we got like the long prayer on page. Like, I feel like she could, like, some of those times we could have just said like she prayed for guidance, and we didn't need like the whole thing, because at times things were feeling repetitive. I did like too that, so they are Christians, obviously, and in a lot of Christian romance, you know, you're not going to get like the on-page stuff. So there wasn't like the on-page stuff beyond like making out, but they showed that husband and wives, of course, are going to be attracted to each other, and just sex is just a part of marriage. So they were pretty open about their desires for each other, and, you know, like, we were told that they had sex and stuff, which, reading the reviews was really interesting, because a lot of like people didn't like that part. They were like, oh, it's sinful, and I'm like, oh, shut up. You know, some people of the overly conservative Christians just be doing the most. And there was a lot of drama here, and I really liked the drama. Like, there was some very good twists and turns. Like I said, this book was just a little too long for me. If it would have been like 100 pages less, I would have been happier with it. Like, I feel like we could have just cut out some of the repetition. But overall, I would still pick up a Tony Shiloh again. So then I read Summer is Here by Renee Watson, which actually had gotten an arc of it. So this is what it's looking like. And this is just a cute picture book. I read it with the kids on a snow day. So it's just an ode to summer, you know, chasing the ice cream truck, having water balloon fights, going to the pool. It reminded me a lot of my childhood, you know, like going to cookouts with the family. Illustrations were really good, and I thought this one was really cute. So I definitely recommend that one. Again, we were having a discussion while we were reading it about like the things we wanted to do during summer. Like, it brought up some memories, because we haven't had like that big summer in a while. And I remember after like pandemic lockdown, when they were first opening up, and it was like near the start of the summer, how the whole neighborhood just came outside and went to the ice cream truck, because we were just so used to being trapped outside, and like, you never are going to like recapture those types of moments again. Then I read Maya and the Return of the Godlings by Rena Barron. This is book 2 in the series. This is a series that I plan on finishing this year, and I actually found that I liked book 2 more than book 1. It was faster paced, because now we're really in the world. So Maya has come into her powers, and she is accompanying her father to help him repair the veil, and really like learn how, like, her position as protector of the veil. At the same time, she's also getting ready to battle the Lord of Shadows, which will be happening in book 3. So I am definitely looking forward to that one. Then I read The Last Stand by Antoine Eady, which was another picture book, and this was an ode to black farmers, because if you've been paying attention to the news the last couple years, you know black farmers have really been trying to fight for their land, and then something was passed that was supposed to help them, and then it got blocked by Republicans. So, and especially in areas down south, they are really fighting to reclaim their land from the government, because the government comes into so many of these communities and just takes away their land and pushes them off of it, and then they have to go find new places to live. So in this one, the family has the last farm stand at the farmer's market, and grandpa is getting older, so he's having a harder time running it, but his grandson wants to take over and keep the legacy continuing. Then I read Super Boba Cafe, which was a graphic novel by Nidhi Chani. And Super Boba Cafe was actually kind of weird, to be honest. Like, it was a little bit repetitive because this girl goes to San Francisco to spend time with her grandma after this incident that they're being really secretive about, where like that caused like a friendship breakup. And so she, day in and day out, like every day they go, grandma's not really trying to sell stuff in the shop. She's trying to improve the shop on her grandma's behalf. And then her grandma mysteriously sends her home early every day so she can do whatever in the back room of the restaurant. And when we finally did get the big reveal for like what happened, I'm like, I feel like that part was well done and it was a good heartfelt moment. But I feel like then like we took this weird turn where like there's monsters and stuff, and also the art in this read very, very young. So looking at the cover, you'd think the main character was like 10 or something. In actuality, she's 14. If I maybe about to be 15, I'm not sure, but she's like around 14. She's interacting with this neighbor boy who's 16. They both look like 10 and 12. The storyline is definitely like the fallout thing that happened with her friends is definitely like a more mature thing. But you wouldn't know that when you go and pick up the cover, and I just feel like the illustrator, who is also the author, needed to do a better job like with the art, just making them look older. And then like I don't know if I fully like the monster metaphor, and then it's dragged out so that they can have a book 2, but I don't think I'm interested in reading book 2. Then I read Yumbo Gumbo, and this is a part of a series called Storytelling Math, which is really cool because they use different math concepts while giving you a great story, so the kids are learning but don't fully realize that they're learning. This was cool to read with my niece. We read it together and we did some of the discussion questions in the back, and we talked about food because this is set in Louisiana. We learned some Creole words, and the kids use storytelling math, aka in this one it's voting, to figure out what they should have for dinner, because everybody knows what their favorite gumbo is, but they don't fully agree on what gumbo they should make. So this was a good time. We really liked this. I have read like one other book within this storytelling math series, and I highly recommend it. And this one was gifted to me by Charles Bridge. Charles Bridge, I will say, is one of those indie publishers that is Kidlit that's doing a really good job at actually being diverse, like they said they were going to, of pushing these non-white authors at the forefront. Oh, then I read A Night at the Tropicana, which is by Chanel Cleaton, and this was one of those Amazon Prime reads. This was like a really quick story, but I can't say that I was completely interested in. I was initially interested because I saw like historical romance set in Cuba, which is different. We don't have a lot of those, but I can't say like anything in particular stood out to me about this story. Then I read Viper's Dream by Jake Lamar, which is another historical. It's a historical noir, and I was really excited to read this one because it had been sitting on my Libro FM for a while. So I decided February was the month that I wanted to listen to it, and I liked some of the parts of the world. Like, we're following this man. He moves from Arkansas, I think it was, and he moves to Harlem. He wants to make it big as a musician, and then he falls into like the Harlem drug underbelly. I didn't fully believe his rise to like this big, scary like mobster that everybody feared. It felt just like he conveniently fell into that role, And then we're following him throughout the years as he's strong arming people and doing what he wants to do and getting involved in all these shady businesses. But he has this woman that he really likes, and to be honest, like, the whole portrayal of her was just, she was some faithless whore, like, who was constantly betraying him whenever he would, and then he would fight with her, and then they get back together for a little bit, and then some shit would happen where she would have to go off again, and I'm like, I did not like how it ended either. I feel like there was a twist at the end that was not foreshadowed well and not impactful enough. Like, if you're gonna do like a twist like that, you have to really build it up, and this was not built up, and it was just kind of like, you didn't get the impact of it because there was just not enough time left at the end to really feel anything, and like, it never felt like there was a true connection between these characters. So Viper's Dream, like, it started out very interesting. Like I said, the world that was built was still intriguing. Like, there was a lot of violence, but it didn't feel like too much. But then I never fully connected with the characters to really care what was going on, you know? Then I read Football Fumble, and I wanted to read this because there just aren't a lot of books that have black boys at the forefront. And like, they just don't publish a lot. So even like a lot of times when we see black male authors like get a chance, they are publishing a lot of stories with black girls as their main character, if not a lot of IP. So it was really cool to see one with a black boy character, and he loves football, which a lot of black boys love football, but surprisingly there aren't like a whole lot of books out here for black boys where they play football. And basically our main character Micah is just excited because like he does like a summer football camp, and one of his heroes comes and signs a football for him. So when they go back to school, he's excited to bring it in for show and tell, to show it off to all his friends. But somehow during the day he loses his football, and he's like freaking out, and his best friend and sisters are trying to help him find it, and he's accusing a classmate of stealing it. And it was just a really good message about like not jumping to conclusions and being careful with things that you care about. And also the mother in here is the principal, and she's Jamaican, and I love that there was patois on page and it was untranslated on page. However, there is a glossary in the back so that the kids can learn what those words mean, which I appreciated. Then we read Zazie Finds Plantains, and I was sitting there reading that. Most Sundays I read with my niece. Like, she needs to learn how to read, and so we read books together. Just to take her out of the phone. She's in her really into the cell phone era and doesn't want to read, but like, she's at reading age, so she needs to learn. And so I try to sit down and forge out some time with her to help her with that. Otherwise, like, sometimes her dad will just like let her do her own thing. So we read Zazie Finds Plantain, which is about this girl's search for finding plantain around the market, and in the meantime her friends and neighbors give her all these different foods to create something special with. And so it was introducing her to different like foods and cultures. And surprisingly, my niece did not know what a plantain was, even though we cook plantain all the time. So that was interesting. I had to explain that to her. The book we read on Hoopla, it was originally published in the UK. I think a US publisher had picked it up, but I'm not sure what's going on with that US publisher, but it was on Hoopla. So you can get it directly from the UK publisher if you're interested in that, or if you have Hoopla, you can find it there. And we read Breaking News, which is a Frankie and Friends book by Christina Platt. And it was about this little girl. Her mom is a reporter, and she often has to go away for work. So her mom goes away for work, but leaves her with her own news show and tells her to keep her like updated. And so she's trying to find a good story, and she has her merry band of toys who are trying to help her find a good story to produce. So then like she hears some crying coming from her sister's room and she's trying to figure out what's going on. So like they you know, use their brains to figure out what's going on, and then that becomes their news report. So that's just a really cute, quick chapter book read. And last, I read The Poisons We Drink, which I have an arc of, so I have it right here. This is by Bethany Baptiste. This book is probably like infamous just because of all that stuff that was going on the past couple of months, but I wanted to read it, and I will admit that at first this one started out slow for me. It didn't really catch my attention, and well, I shouldn't say slow because it was very fast paced, but I wasn't connecting to anything in it. So like stuff was happening. There was some key moments with the romance, but I never really cared for the romance, and I feel like there was like and further reviews, like you'll see a lot of people complaining about this sex scene that was in there. I don't mind teens having sex, and I don't think the scene was anything too over the top. I just don't feel like it was necessarily necessary at the section that it was put in, because we didn't really get to fully connect with Venus at the time because so much was going on. Like I think maybe if that scene would have been later down the line, it would have made more sense. But that was, since it was like before the 40% mark, I just kind of glazed over it, like, okay, yeah, that happened. But basically Venus loses her mom, and she comes from a family of witchers, which in this version of the US, witchers are ostracized and they have to keep their identities hidden. However, a bill is planned that would force them to register as witchers, which would be very detrimental to them. So Venus and her mom are kind of like working against it. Her mom ends up getting killed, and Venus wants to enact revenge. And so she has been brewing these love potions on the side to help support her family. And in order to be able to enact her revenge, she has to agree to brew some love potions that are going to poison some key US politicians. And like I said, it took me a little while to get into it, but once I was in, I was in. Like I thought the stuff after the 40% mark was really interesting, like because we are seeing a main character kicking ass and taking names. So many times I pick up books like this where it promises me a badass main character, but it does not deliver. Like, no, she is killing people, she is doing what she needs to do to get hers, and I appreciated that. I thought the world in here was very interesting, and just how the Witcher Society works, and then we're also getting some political intrigue from the stuff with the politicians. And on top of that, I thought she had a really great supporting cast. Like, sometimes people write side characters and there's literally nothing to them but to help the main character. I did not feel that was the case here. I felt like Venus had a strong family around her, which I also don't typically see in YA, and it's something I've been axing about for a while. Like, I've done videos before, like, seeing where the family's at, because I just don't be seeing that in Black YA. But I appreciated she had her sister, who she was fighting hard for, and her sister was like key in helping her at the end. Same with her uncle. Her uncle was also key in supporting her and helping her, and she would not have won the battle at the end without him. And then like she has her cousin who's always checking on her, making sure she's good and stuff. So I love the family unit in this. Like, they really kicked ass together and supported each other. So that was everything that I read during the month of February. It was a lot. It wasn't my best reading month, but there were some books that I can definitely recommend here. And let me know if any of these books sound interesting to you in the comment section below. If you made it to the end, leave me a flower emoji because we're going to be going into spring. If you like this video, make sure and hit that like button. Thanks so much for watching. I will see you guys in the next one. Bye now.